again, Nomad Sailing. Now we're going to look at the inside of a life jacket, get one open, see what's in there, see what its key features are, and also look at which ones are the legal requirements for a life jacket and which ones are strongly recommended. Got a couple of life jackets we're going to look at. First of all, this red one here, this Baltic. This came out of use at the end of last season because the first thing that we noticed on it was we were getting a little bit of damage, a little bit of fraying happening on the outside cover of the jacket. Now, whilst that doesn't actually affect the use of the jacket, you can also see it's a little bit damaged by the UV where it's been out in the sun. We like our jackets to look nice, and if you remember from my previous video, we said the first thing that you're going to do is look at the general condition. So it's important to us as a sailing school that our jackets look in good condition. So let's have a look. Life jackets do up in different ways. Some have Velcro. Normally they have some kind of zip system, which you can see undoing now. And once that's unzipped, you can unfold the outer protection and you'll see the bladder, this yellow section we call the bladder of the jacket itself. You can unfold that like so to have a good look at it. So again, the first thing, if you end up with your life jacket like this, or if it's inflated, it's a good opportunity to have a general look at the condition. We don't recommend you take them apart regularly, as that's done once a year by a manufacturer, but should it be inflated, there's nothing stopping you now having a general look round and getting to know your life jacket and seeing what the general condition is on the inside, because really that's the important bit. So some of the features then we can see, we'll start down here. We can see, as we've said, this whole yellow section is the bit that gets inflated by our gas bottle. That area is called the bladder, and stuck onto the bladder is reflective tape. That tape is a legal requirement, so for a life jacket to be sold and called a life jacket, it must have an amount of this reflective tape inside on the bladder. And that's there so that at night, primarily, if you're in the water and somebody's trying to find you with a searchlight or a torch, you reflect nicely so that they can hopefully come and recover you nice and quickly. Moving on, we have this here, which is a grab handle. Even says that, does what it says on the tin, and that's for really the recovery of you from the water. It gives somebody on board or somebody in a lifeboat or a helicopter something to grab hold of to then secure themselves to you to help recover the casualty back on board a boat. So the grab handle there. We can then see this red tube here. This is the oral inflation tube. Again, this is a legal requirement, so all life jackets must have one of these. This allows you to top up the life jacket should it lose a little bit of air by blowing into the tube, and also should you be trying to get yourself into a life raft or onto a boat again, you might find it easier to deflate it. So you can take the top of the cap there, you can see has a small lump on it there, you can turn that round, push that in, and if there was air in this life jacket, that would allow you to expel some of that air to potentially increase your manoeuvrability to get back on board. Moving on round then to the main area of the jacket, we have this section here, and all of this stuff here is to do with the inflation of the jacket. So starting from the bottom, our jackets here are automatic inflating jackets, which means they need to have this device here. I'll unscrew this so that we can have a closer look at it. So basically we can see this small black cylinder object. We can see it has a green element on the bottom, which tells me visually that this is still good and that this hasn't been let off. And also these do have expiry dates. So on here we can see a replaced by 11/20/22. So it's important that these are in date if fitted to your jackets. What's in here is a little salt crystal. Once this gets wet, the salt quickly dissolves. A spring then activates, which pushes this red segment up here, which goes through this yellow section and pushes the pin into the bottle, therefore setting off your jacket itself. You can see on this one the bottle's missing. I'll show you some bottles in a minute and how we look at those. So these screw onto the bottom of the manual inflation should your life jacket be automatically inflating. Not all jackets have to be. And then we move on to the red toggle here, and this yellow area really is the manual inflation of the life jacket. So all jackets should be manual and some may be automatic. So what happens when you're wearing this red toggle is poking out the bottom or the side of your jacket, and should you need to inflate it, you pull down sharply and a pin comes up in this yellow section and pierces the gas bottle, releasing the gas into the bladder itself. And we can see, here's the bottle from this life jacket here. This is what they look like, and this bottle will be fitted into this threaded area here. So that gets screwed in like so. And if I was to pull down sharply on that, that pin would pierce and the compressed gas would fill the bladder, inflating the jacket. And again, it's important if your jacket has gone off that it gets returned to the manufacturer to be checked, and they will need to replace this bottle. You can see this one is okay because it's sealed, but if the jacket had inflated, this bottle would have an obvious hole in the top of it. And finally, life jackets, again a legal requirement, must have a whistle fitted like so. So again, every life jacket to be sold and called a life jacket must have a whistle that's attached somewhere on the jacket to allow you to attract attention should you end up in the water. Again, not a legal requirement, but very good practice. Even if you only intend to go out by day, all life jackets really should be fitted with a light, because just because you're only sailing by day, if you were to fall in the water, there's no guarantee you're going to be found before the sun goes down. So strongly recommended is to fit all life jackets with a light like so. Again, this sits inside the jacket attached to the bladder and is automatically activated when it hits the seawater, as an electrical connection is made between these two contacts. But again, they do have a test function. So by pressing this button here, I can test to check that my life jacket light is still functioning correctly. And again, can turn it off like so.